Good day, everybody. I was out here looking at my pears, and man, we had a wonderful pear harvest this year. And you know, a lot of times when I have a bountiful amount of pears, and we got 2 trees, when I have a bountiful amount of pears or any kind of fruit, I always try to figure out something to do with them other than fresh eating, because sometimes you just can't eat them all. And I always think about making a preserve or some kind of jelly or jam. But I got the idea of trying to make some wine. So we're gonna make some pear wine. We're gonna see how it turn out. And the way you can tell if a pear is ripe, let's see, it's gonna pull right off. You know, it's kind of almost like a pepper. I hate to say it. When you pull a pepper, you just pull it off. It's gonna come right off. That way you know it's ripe, because that stem is kind of, it's kind of lost the connection with the mama, I guess, is the best way to say it. And after that, it's not really, the tree is really not putting anything in it anymore. The only thing it's doing is sitting there and letting the sun ripen it, or the warmth of the air ripen it, almost like if it would be on your countertop. So a lot of times I come out and go ahead and start harvesting them. Also, it'll cut down on squirrels or raccoons getting them if you just let them sit out here. Um, but I like to get them at the peak of ripeness, and that's the benefit of growing your own pear tree, having your own pear tree. You can, because a lot of times when they're harvested commercially, they pick them a little early, and so they can get kind of ripe in transit to the store. But when you're growing your own pears, you got the luxury of just letting them get to that peak of sweetness on the tree. And this right here is a Kieffer pear, and it is a southern type pear. It does well in humid climates. So it's a kind of a staple of the South. They make a great preserve. Um, that's probably what most people do. We're gonna make some wine. We're gonna see how it turns out. So we're gonna pick a few of these. Like I said, they're at the peak of sweetness. Yeah, so we're gonna finish picking our pears, and we're going to show you the next step on making our wine, and stay tuned. Okay, y'all, we got us some nice pears. We're gonna let these cure for a few days, and since they've gotten so ripe on the tree, they don't really need a lot of curing inside. Just stay tuned, and thank you for watching so far. Okay, so we got all of our pears cleaned and washed. I decided to leave the skin on there, but on these grainy skin pears, like the Kieffer pear, you really need to scrub them good. I got a scrub brush and just kind of scrubbed them down and got all of the surface dirt out of the skin. Down a smooth skin pear, you might not need to do that. But or you can just peel them. But I wanted to leave the skin on there because I wanted to kind of pick up the flavor of the pear, and it should act like it's a natural tannin. But we got them washed. What we're gonna do is we're gonna cut them up. And since these Kieffer pears they're real sweet and juicy, but I'm gonna have to puree them. So what I'm gonna do is cut these up real fine, and I'm gonna put them in my pureer. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we got all of our pulp in our brew bag. So we got quite a bit of pulp. And then we're gonna tie that up real good. We're gonna kind of set it down in our juice. Then we're gonna add in about a gallon of water. And I like to add that we are adding in just pure spring water. I don't recommend using tap water. And we did sanitize everything with Star Sand. We sanitized our bucket, our brew bag, our pureer, and everything we touch, we had it sanitized. So everything has to be extremely clean. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put in campden tablets. which is sodium metabisulfate. What that's going to do is going to kill any wild yeast that's in our pulp and in our juice. And we're going to let it sit overnight. Just going to sprinkle it. So I ended up putting in 3 campden tablets. I put in the extra one. So what we're going to do is just kind of massage that sodium metabisulfate campden tablet, just massage it into the juice. Make sure our pulp is down in there good. And we're going to let that sit for 24 hours, and we'll be back tomorrow for the next step. Okay, y'all, it's the next day. We making a simple syrup to add to our juice mixture. So we added about 5 pounds of sugar and about 1/4 of a gallon of water. And so we're going to add this to our mix, and then we're going to take a specific gravity reading. Syrup mixture to it. All right, y'all. So we're going to stir our sugar mixture in there. I usually start about, it depends on the fruit. Like if I have some real sweet fruit, I may start off a little bit conservative and do about 3 pounds of sugar, 4 pounds of sugar, then take a specific gravity reading. These, it smell wonderful, by the way. But these pears were sweet, but I didn't think they're gonna add a lot of sugar to the water. So I started with 5 pounds of sugar to start with, and we're gonna take a specific gravity reading. So just to be clear, we put in about 1 gallon of spring water, and then we probably put in maybe 1/4 of a gallon with our simple syrup. Do we use a little bit of spring water with that? So we probably at somewhere at about a gallon and 1/4. So when you determine how much water you need to use, the good rule of thumb is you want to start off with your pulp and the juice from the fruit, and then you want to just put enough water in there to kind of cover your pulp or your bag. Well, that's usually anywhere between a 1/2 gallon to a gallon of spring water is what I generally use. As you make wine, you'll kind of develop your own formula, or you can get a recipe book to give you an idea of what to use. The more water you use, it can kind of dilute the flavor of your wine. So I try not to use too much water, especially with some with like pears. I really want that pear flavor to come through. So I try not to use too much water, but you don't want to use too less water, because if you do that, then you'll wind up with a flavorful wine, but you'll wind up with a wine that's kind of hard to clear and kind of cloudy. So you want to use enough water where you can get it kind of clear at the end. But there's really no perfect formula for making wine. You kind of, as you go along, you'll kind of develop your own recipe and your own style, but there's really no way to mess it up. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a specific gravity reading. Okay, y'all, so we really hit it right on the head. I like to be at about 15% alcohol by volume. That equates to 1.110. So 15% alcohol by volume. So that's exactly where I like to be. But we should be able to get this back down to dry. So what we'll do is at the end, we'll take another specific gravity reading, and it should be down to 0. If it is, we know we achieved our 15% alcohol by volume. So the next thing we're going to do is get to the fun part, and that's adding in our ingredients. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our yeast nutrient, and we're going to put in 3 teaspoons of yeast nutrient. The yeast nutrient, what that does, is going to give our yeast something to thrive on, and it just creates a healthy environment for the yeast so they didn't give out too quick. Next thing you're going to do is put in some acid blend. The acid blend, what it does, it kind of balances out the acidity. and just adds and help aid to the flavor of the wine. 2 teaspoons of the acid blend. Next thing we're going to add in is going to be our peptic enzyme. Now, the peptic enzyme, it kind of does the reverse of peptic. Like when you're making jelly, the enzyme kind of reduces the jelliness of the wine and it kind of thins it out, and that's going to, make it easier to clear. So we're going to add in about 2 teaspoons of this. The next thing we're going to do is add in our wine tannin. Basically, this right here adds body to the wine, and it's important that we use a tannin with this pear wine because it's my first time making pear wine, but I'm assuming it's probably the end product is not going to have a lot of body, kind of like grapes. The skin or the pulp of a grape kind of adds tannins to it. I thought it'd be good to use the skin of the pear to kind of add a little bit of tannin, natural pear tannin to it, and a little bit of flavor. But we're gonna go ahead and use this as well. We're gonna put in 2 teaspoons of wine tannin. And this right here, the best way to explain it is probably like a real fine, some kind of real fine grinded up wood particles, I guess. But it's supposed to add flavor and tannin. Now you can use natural tannins as well. Like I started to put. Sometimes I'll brew them with raisins, dice up raisins, and add it to the brew bag. Sometimes you can boil a cup of black tea and add it into it, so you don't have to use the tannins that come with the wine kits. What we're gonna do, we're gonna take our time. We're gonna blend this in real good, stir it in real good, and we're gonna be back to add on our yeast. And we'll be right back. Okay, y'all, here comes the most fun and most important part, and we're gonna add in our yeast. So I usually use Red Star. I usually use a Premier Classic. So I ordered this one. It's supposed to have a little bit higher alcohol tolerance, I think up to 18%, which should be more than fine for what we're trying to do. Premier Blanc. So, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. So we're gonna try this one out. We just got this fresh in. So a lot of people do what they call bloom the yeast and put it in some warm water and get it started. But I just, have pretty good success just adding it right to the must. So I just try not to get it on that brew bag, just to get it nice and just hit the water with it or the juice with it. And I could probably get away with using a half a packet, but this yeast is so inexpensive, I just use a whole packet. Okay, it's the next day. As you can see, our bubbler is going to town. That means that yeast is working. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna open this up and we're gonna check on our yeast. Okay, so we just gonna stir our yeast up, push our bag down. What this does, it just helps keep an healthy environment for the yeast to move it around every now and then. And we'll do this process right here for the first 3, maybe 4 days when we get our most aggressive fermentation. But after that, when the fermentation starts to slow down, we won't worry about doing this process. But all right, we'll be back later. Okay, y'all, we're back. It's about 10 days later. And of course, all of our primary fermentating has been done. I removed the brew bag after about 4 days. After the most aggressive fermentation was done, I went ahead and got that out of the way. And now what we're gonna do, most times you'll siphon this over into a secondary fermentator. This is our secondary fermenter, so like a 2.5 gallon carboy. But what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna take my time and dip it out with my dipper, and just that way to give me one more opportunity to strain it, and make sure we get any little sediment out of it, floating particles. It'll just give us a little bit head start on getting it clear. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we got everything raked off and got it in our cardboard. So we're gonna let this sit for about a month, month and a half, and we'll be back with the next step. We got our airlock on there, and basically we're gonna let it finish doing any fermentating that is left to do. We'll go ahead and it'll start the sediment will start leaking, getting to the bottom, and we can go ahead and start the clearing process. You can see all that's left at the bottom is dead yeast and a little bit of fruit pulp. But anyway, we'll be back, and thanks for watching so far. Okay, y'all, we're back. It's been about 2 months later. So you can see it's already starting to get clear. And you can see we got some sediment at the bottom. What we're gonna do, we're gonna rake this wine off of the sediment into this new fresh carboy. And we're gonna do that right quick, and we'll be back and show you how it looks. Okay, so we got everything transferred over. You can see our sediment that was left at the bottom. I think we picked up a little bit of sediment by accident. That's why it looked a little cloudy again, but that's okay. And we're gonna let it sit for about another month or so, and it ought to be back crystal clear. This ought to be our last time raking it, actually. I anticipate next time we'll be back, we'll rake it over and do a specific gravity reading. So if things are turning out pretty good. I took a little sip of it, and it tastes pretty good so far. Um, sometimes I will, after the first raking, I'll put in a product called Midnight, which is like a natural clay to help with the clearing process. We're going to skip that step this time because I think we're going to be able to get it pretty clear without using that this time. But anyway, I appreciate you for watching so far, and we'll be back. Okay, y'all, we're going to try to wrap up this video on this wine. And it's been several months later, actually. I've actually did one raking, then I let it sit again, and we're gonna rake it off again one more time, but we just got a little bit of sediment at the bottom, so it's pretty clear. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna just go and take a specific gravity reading. I have tasted it, and it tastes wonderful, and it seemed to be pretty dry, but we're gonna go ahead and take an official specific gravity reading just to see officially what it is. We're gonna fill up our beaker with wine. It smells wonderful, by the way, too. Okay, so we back down at 0, which means that we achieved our alcohol by volume. So we're gonna give it a final little taste, and we sanitize again everything. All right, you can see it has a nice, beautiful color. Man, it has a wonderful flavor. Like I said, I have snuck and tasted it a little bit, and we are gonna back sweeten this with a little bit of sugar because I don't like my wine real dry. And then we're not gonna worry about bottling this up. I think what we're gonna do is just put these in some containers, and then we're just gonna enjoy it. But generally, what I do is I'll bottle my wine up, give it out to people, and so this particular batch right here, we're just gonna enjoy it. I am gonna make some more wine. We're gonna keep making it until we, perfect it. We're gonna try a few different recipes, but I'm very happy with the way it turned out. So hopefully, this will be an example that if you have a whole lot of pears in your yard, whether it's the Kieffer pear or just another type pear that you have in your yard that's nice and sweet. Sometimes they can just put out a bountiful harvest, and there's other things you can do with it other than making pear preserve or eating them fresh or giving them away. You can make wine out of them. So I hope this video encouraged you, to make some pear wine. It's a wonderful fruit for making wine out of. So we're gonna do some more videos on making wine out of this pear. So make sure you subscribe to AG Outside, and also give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the work we put into the video. And as normal, man, I really appreciate you for watching, and have a great day.